Welcome to another episode of UFO Man Live. My name is UFO Man, and to my side is my co-conspirator, Tommy Highway. Introduce yourself, Tommy.
Hey folks, I'm Tommy Highway. Really happy to be here. Guys, thanks for everybody for coming out. We really appreciate that. We're going to have a great show for you tonight. Tim, thank you, brother, as always, for having me. And I guess we'll just go ahead and get going here. The subject tonight is time travel, possibilities of time travel, some of the things, experiments that have actually been done on time travel. But I wanted to talk a little bit about something that may be actually happening, possibly even on a daily basis on this planet. I'm talking about time itself. What I mean by that is we've seen several instances in history where there's been a time warp, like an aircraft, for instance, had started traveling at one time at one place and ended up in the destination much faster than it should have. And what I'm talking about, the gentleman I'm talking about, is actually Bruce Gernon. Okay, this happened in the early 1970s. I believe it was 70, if I'm not mistaken. What's happened here is that Mr. Gernon had a small plane, like a Cessna, that sort of thing, a single-engine plane, and he was flying from Miami to the Keys, basically. And the problem is he was surrounded by some kind of an electronic fog during his trip, and he made the trip 3 times faster than he should have been able to make that trip. I mean, when he arrived at the airport that far, in advance, they were actually surprised to see him because they knew what time he had left his airport of origin, basically, right? So, I mean, it's just weird that these things happen. And this is a documented thing that this gentleman's story, Bruce Gernon, we'll leave a link at in the description, but you should read it. It's very interesting. Now, I myself have had a very strange experience with this. This was must have been the late 90s. Mid to late 90s, and I was actually traveling from Iowa to Ohio, which is a trip that I made very frequently. This particular trip, I had a friend with me. The guy was my best friend for like 25 years, and we were actually timing ourselves because we were trying to break our record. We made this trip so often that we're trying to do it faster and faster, and we got down to where we could actually do a 12-hour trip in about 8 hours, wink, wink. But this particular evening, we pulled in to Dayton, Ohio, North Dayton, Ohio, near the airport, and we got onto I-75. We looked right at the clock, both of us did, and we knew exactly what time it was, and we're like, hey, we beat it by 19 minutes or whatever it was. But the thing is, it was really raining hard that night. I mean, it was raining so hard that, you couldn't see 3 feet in front of the car. So I'm driving naturally a lot slower because of the weather conditions and the road conditions and the fact that I really liked this car. I didn't want to kill it, right? So we're driving along, and again, I'm just creeping down I-75. Not very much traffic to speak of. I mean, everybody's indoors because the storm is so bad. And the next thing I know, I look up 20 minutes later, and we're passing underneath a bridge that happens to be a landmark in Cincinnati. Okay, so North Dayton to Cincinnati. Now, that in and of itself doesn't sound very remarkable. But here's the problem. We made this trip in 20 minutes, all right? This trip, with dry conditions at 75 miles an hour, and anybody from this area will tell you this, should take about 90 minutes, about an hour and a half. We made that trip that night in 20 minutes. And again, I have somebody in this world that can actually corroborate this story. And so if you think about time, have you ever had one of those days where your day just like blew by, like just time just accelerated and it was over with? And then you've had those days where time seems to take forever, that sort of thing. Well, what if that's actually what's happening? What if time, much like gravity on this planet, is not a constant? It moves like the weather, like clouds. Okay, you might move into let's say a front of fast time where your time moves faster, and then you may move back into a slow time. I mean, have you ever considered these possibilities? And theoretically, this is all possible, but it's all academic.
Maybe time is more has plasticity to it. So it fluctuates.
Right.
So sometimes it wraps around something and changes that timeline.
Right. And we know,
for an
instance, it's not a constant.
Right. So tonight we're going to be talking about the looking glass technology that Occam in the chat room had just mentioned. We're going to be talking about Project Looking Glass and Project Arggo. Arggo is actually the project where they tried to develop a working model, a smaller working model of Project Looking Glass, so that they could time lens. Time lensing is where you would look through the looking glass device, which was made up of 2 concentric rings that would spin independently of themselves. And to give you an idea of what that is, it was alluded to in the movie Contact, the 2 rings that were spinning with a chamber in the center. It was a direct reference to the looking glass technology, because when it was originally built, it was approximately that size. They had to make it really big. But now they have supposedly, or should I say allegedly, created a looking glass device that is much smaller, that they've been able to use to create an energy field that allows them to project a holographic image, a 3D holographic image that allows them to see forward and backward in time. And I have a video where a gentleman by the name of Dan Burisch, interviewed by Kerry Cassidy, will talk about this technology. Whether it is a good technology or a bad technology, whether it is good for mankind or not good for mankind. So let's go to the movie or the video. Hold on a second here. Here we go.
About, well, there was something that I heard from one of the folks in the team.
Something from about 24 hours ago, maybe.
About that, yeah.
I've been in there for what, about 60 hours now? I haven't been there for 3 full
Not
days.
full 3 days, no. And then about 60, yeah. 54, 55. Rounding the corner on 60.
You have that running?
Yeah, sure, of course. It's archiving everything.
Who'd you hear from?
Well, I like I say, I heard it kind of through the grapevine. Fran mentioned that Steve had said something that Al was talking about.
Okay, and we have the subject defined, I think.
Yeah.
Well, then you heard it.
I heard an allusion to it. I don't know what's going on.
Just not sure I even want to.
All right, where do we stand right now as far as Arggo goes for the prototyping?
Well, we're waiting on SpongeBob to send the first video to us. It should be here in a few days, showing where he's at on delivering the central cylinder device, the one that feeds the argon in.
Okay.
And the spinning.
The spinning.
We're nowhere on the magnets yet.
No, I know that.
We're nowhere on the internal aspects to the cylinder, but we will get there fairly quickly because I have a few ideas, fairly cheap ideas as well. He is presently working on the axes in place for the item to spin, and I'm sure he's going to be probably working on a non-pendant port for the argon input.
Well, it would have to be because they would have to be.
Well, yeah, because this thing's going to be spinning and it's going to be moving on its axis and ultimately raised up and down. So the flow has to be continuous. So there's going to have to be a free wheel, if you will, on it, where the port can continue to deliver the argon into the center of the device. I figured that was a good place to start. And of course, Dad already has the basic design done for the raising and the lowering
raising portion, the lowering
of the
portion.
central device. Relative to what you were talking about with Brian, we were talking about rings, and we've pretty much decided that, or I've pretty much decided that the various ring components for this would have to be independent as they would be fused. So if we were to find a certain dialing position, if you will, for the rings to remove CO2,
Say, carbon dioxide
versus methane or any other
like
partial
the
pressure
gas from the atmosphere that's just doing the global warming.
Right.
Right.
If we manage to find the right electromagnetic configuration to trap a specific type of gas, we'll probably have to produce a version, a frozen ring version for that, so they can be lifted and then added to the top of the torus unit as a component, if you will. We want to remove methane today.
So
let's
we
go grab the one marked methane.
This one that says methane, and it goes over top.
Plunk it down, hook it on, and run the system.
But that's not the thing that got my attention.
I know it isn't.
It really isn't. I mean,
I'm flashing back to Papa in '87. What he said to me. Because he mentioned the time when we briefly met in the tent before going out on the field there, Candlestick.
You mean Pope John?
Yeah.
The second.
John Paul II.
Paul II.
Yeah, because I was kind of pulled aside a little bit, but because of everything that happened with the healing and all of that, my ability, they're allowing me to wear white shirts, all of that business, and he more than alluded to the young man with. He said the young man who will change index fossils. And that frightened me. I wondered for a long time what he meant by that. There's no way to change index fossils aside from finding new ones. And there's no way to remove index fossils. So it lends itself, and a couple other things that just because that damn thing is running,
Index fossils.
A basic, you're looking for a general.
Yeah.
A defining fossil of a certain set of fossils.
So sort of like an archetypal fossil.
Exactly.
Of a group.
Exactly.
So if an index fossil is changed, it would imply a change at the time the fossil was actually laid down.
Or a change, well, it would imply that, yes. It would also imply more directly, because we're calling it a fossil, a change in what the fossil looks like presently. And this has been added over the years by me up. It's something that I've never revealed, and it's, I just can't. It implies a relationship to the changing of the timelines, specifically the comments that did make it out to the public about Mars.
Well,
we would expect to find certain changes. Now, Brian...
We know the timeline's already been impacted because of the changes that have been made.
Well, indeed, there have been.
Enormous impacts to the timeline.
Yeah, and this is a natural reorientation from an artificial change. Now, we know that the J-rods imparted some of that change.
Yes.
So did the Orions.
Yes.
However, they have very sophisticated arguments as to how they minimized such change, because they actually care, or cared. Well, I know there's still some of them present on orbit, so I guess they care.
They care. They care enough to have...
Their presence is still here, so we can say that they care as a group, I suppose.
Well, they wouldn't have risked everything and had to spend the rest of their lives here if they didn't.
Of the group that's still on orbit, yes. The rest are locked in their time, and hopefully they're fine.
Right.
But this thing that Brian came up with was a genius, sheer genius.
Okay.
And I don't. Why are you asking?
Well, the issue.
Because of its nature. I'm just
Yeah, the
wondering
issue
why you didn't
of,
just inculcate and entrench and just.
of time. The issue of time is on everybody's mind. I mean, I'm seeing things. I swear I know certain people have died, and I know that I'm seeing them back in the news. And there have been some
certain instances where I've wondered about that as well, and there have been other instances of publications where individuals said he knew that a certain switch, for instance,
Yeah.
And the plasticity of reality at that point hit him.
Yeah. Like a light switch on the wall was here. You mean, or not there?
Yeah, one day, and then was not there the next, and he knew damn well that it was there.
He knew point blank it was there.
In fact, it was
there
even
for years.
That was published through RENES.
Okay.
That was published through RENES. And so, the plasticity of reality, well, to me, it's less a question of plasticity as it is an almost infinite. I say almost because I don't know where the mathematical limits are, but infinite superpositioning of realities of universes.
Mm-hmm.
And without getting into all the physics of it here.
Oh, I don't understand physics
okay, look,
anyway.
we're here for breakfast, and you've sat me down here for a reason, and the reason is what Brian said 24 hours or so ago. Yeah. And when did this information come get over to you?
About 6 or 8 hours ago.
Okay.
And
so, last night.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about it ever since, because we are not going to be.
You can always count on Stephen to just. It's not that I'm looking to hide anything from you, baby. It's not that. It's just you can always count on him to. What did he do? Did he run home saying, "Yeah, there's a time machine. There's a time machine"? I mean,
I don't think he ran home that way, but I think he was a little concerned, and it kind of leaked over to Fran, and she's concerned too, because we had made a point of telling everybody that we're not opening a wormhole. We're not going to be playing around at all with these ring configurations. But now we're talking about something completely different.
Oh, no, we're talking about something that he found. Look, okay, I don't even really want to talk about it, but at all. I'm afraid that even talking about it is for lack of a better term, a sin. I mean, changing realities. But.
Well, all I know is that I've been nauseous ever since she told me. I feel like I'm in a constant state of deja vu right now. And that's got me concerned, because if
I'm feeling the same.
If
not the nauseousness, but the deja vu.
Well, I get nauseous sometimes when I'm thinking about the time issues, and this one has been hitting. I've been sick to my stomach for hours.
I'm sorry. I wish you would have.
Well, you were busy, and I didn't want to pull you out, and you've been occupied, and we need to get that stuff done. I'll just take something, Dramamine or something, but it's not working. My point is that I feel like I'm in the middle of a deja vu experience, and it's making me sick to my stomach, and it hasn't stopped. So that's sort of telling me something, because if we're talking about time, then if we do something interesting, for the lack of a better term, with Arggo,
when he found this,
that creates a deja vu moment, then we've already done it. I want to know what it is that we're talking about.
I felt the same. The deja vu portion.
Okay.
I'm not comfortable with that damn thing being on at all, because it's putting it in a fixed form. But our speaking it also causes an impingement into the consciousness field.
Consciousness. Into the ethereal.
I was working on the ring configurations on how to port the ring configurations to the different dialing so that we wouldn't have to actually move them.
Okay.
But as for the rings would be dialed to a certain position, and the amorphous nature of this central feature would form.
They're like the pearl.
Well, it would condense into a pearl, into a sphere,
Okay.
which could then be tuned to be widened enough to see matter within it, the projection, the hologram within it.
Uh-huh.
Should say matters within it rather than the term matter. Well, they described this kind of like an orange with the rind on the outside.
Like a rind, and then the white pith, and then there's the orange.
Right. The central feature would be drawn first, and then there would be a point. If you do a V-shape type reflection inside of a circle that has an annular ring around it, a border, if you will, around it, where the lines begin to impinge upon the greater portion of that darkened border around it, the ring.
Okay.
But in 3D. So it'd be a cone.
Mm-hmm.
That in turn would be spinning because the entire device is spinning. That the time, the original ERBs, the Einstein-Rosen bridge accessing devices, the Stargates,
Right.
would be augmented with the use of tall unified field type poles. And I don't know all the entire physics of this.
Yeah.
But and what they would do is they would actually draw the cone until it would widen out to almost a plate. And that plate would then extend out of the device, and that became that flat gray oval that people could step through and that information could be passed. What Brian did is he was drawing on the board, on the one whiteboard.
Okay.
The one by the door, to the right of the door, the crappy.
Yeah, the old one.
Yeah. And he put another set of rings on it. You know, he's very good at physics.
Mm-hmm.
And started drawing vectors on it. And using the hand rule for electricity and magnetism, etc.
Okay.
And he ended up producing something, a reasonable device, or the settings for a reasonable device that would begin carving from the outside in, instead of taking the information from the inside out. More. If you look at it like a black hole, more of the information coming from an event horizon rather than a singularity.
Okay.
Okay, less information from inside than would be spherically on this orange from the rind on the outside.
Okay.
And he stopped and he closed the expo pen and he threw it at me across the table. And that woke me up from what I was working on, which is here. And he said, "Look." And I looked at it. And he said, with this, we could carve from the outside in and gain the information on time position. And I instantly realized, because the data from S4, that depending upon where you are and the thickness of the rind,
Okay.
you're dialing forward or backward in time.
All right.
And I'd also learned that in that section, the wave which can be accessed from it can be of infinite, in theory, depending upon power input, of infinite size.
Uh-huh.
So in theory, if we had enough energy, this would have to be, I don't know how many gigawatts, or this hasn't been worked out. I don't think necessarily we should. I think we should. I've got the information. I've taken it down off the board. It is right here.
Okay.
But I don't. That's why my portfolio looks a little ungainly at the moment. Yep. In theory, if enough power would be added to it, we could change local space-time around the entire Earth. Dial forward and backward in time.
Change. the entire space-time.
Or standing within a certain confined area, dial forward and backward, and we move to a different time. There are also possibilities that I had seen about inversions of such devices to project outward. So it could be done as in everybody within the sphere, and you could put the sphere of the Earth within it, or everybody within the sphere and the change reflected outward, as in moving through the center of a dual cone. Both are possibles at this point because of what he drew. I'd never seen this thing drawn this way before, a second set of rings added to it.
So
a smaller set.
People
Good guy, I can't.
might end up remembering the things that were different than what they may have remembered a week ago.
Yes. Or a day ago or an hour ago.
Because things may have been dialed down in the future. In the future, they may have been dialed backward.
This is probably why Stephen came running. If we were to reopen after and I told you I hate these damn things, but if we were to reopen the looking glass after transition has been completed and look at a certain probability and where that probability of change could occur, the point that we wanted to dial to, we could, in theory, dial this device. This is theory. We could, in essence, dial this device to a certain time and to a probability and cause that probability to have occurred.
Okay.
This would mean, in theory, that we could construct out of whole cloth from a probability of things occurring. And I don't know if this would be a mirror and a mirror and a mirror.
Right.
But out of whole cloth, a reality or a perception. In other words, find the probability, find that wave of the probability where, you know what, okay, the movie The Watchmen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, where they showed Nixon wins third term.
Third term. Right.
Okay. We could find the probability where he did, dial that to it, and reset everything to it. Everything else would then just like a stack of cards fall right up in line.
It, like a shuffled stack of cards, would just line up behind it.
Yes.
Reshuffled itself into that new probability.
Yes. Any reshuffling, though, will have the consequences that could come with it. Any reshuffling of living and dying.
Yeah.
Maybe JFK didn't get shot on November 22nd. Maybe a child from the side threw a ball at the car.
Yeah.
And the limousine diverted and the shots.
Mm-hmm. Maybe something along that
All
line.
the angles of shots didn't hit him. Maybe then his wavering that was occurring right before,
Yes.
maybe it would have become more than wavering. Maybe the committee of the majority would not have been completed to its chartering.
Mm-hmm.
What if we push the button to that time and we look around and we find that the nuclear war with the Soviet Union occurred?
Because of the reshuffling.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
If we would go back in time to that particular, we can't find out what links to it at Luther. I'm not certain. In other words, follow that wave or ride that wave to whatever occurs. Now, if the physicists with the looking glass could find out with these almost infinite number of propositions. The specific way where everything would occur and no irresponsible damage would result, they would have the ultimate power with that device.
I think back to...
It's Herculean. It's beyond Herculean. It's
beyond
Mount
Herculean.
Olympus.
I think back
it's wrong.
to the fact that for years and years, Majestic kept trying to keep you and I separated. And they did a really fine job of it. I thought several times I thought my days were numbered, but...
Well, it was so fine. It was so fine. It took us 18 years how to figure our way out, and then we didn't.
It actually...
Then we didn't. It was John.
It was John that did it. John stepped in and gave me little bits of information to try to, like, rescue your memories and things like that after that whole debacle.
Which set, right?
Right. And he was also instrumental in helping us break free and actually make it out. And I'm wondering, I can't help but wonder, because he's had huge access to the Looking Glass data before it was all shut down, if he might not have known, you know, what together you and I may or may not accomplish or do, and it might be something that they desperately want.
Marcia.
More so than they wanted other things. And I'm thinking, for all we know, this...
Where do you stand here? You're talking about this very freely. Where do you stand on this?
Oh.
I need to know, hon. I should turn that damn thing around on you for a while.
Yeah. I don't know where I stand. All I know is that I believe in my heart that something amazing, something insanely strange that may have just...
Grab a hold of that concept there for a second.
Yeah,
insanely
strange may have already taken place in the future. I mean, how do you talk about stuff like this without screwing your tenses up?
We are
in
charge of what we do now.
Where we're looking at this, I mean...
Okay, note to self, do not let Stephen into the theory room.
I mean, this is just crazed, because if we...
Although I have to keep Brian next to me. He is...
have to.
You know what he is.
I know, and Stephen has to be there because of the threats. But he gets nervous and really upset. I mean, he's a big guy. He's a tough guy, but he's sensitive too about stuff. And
he's flighty. He's got a big heart. Okay?
He's got a big heart. I don't think
he just needs to. With a big heart, he needs to shut his mouth.
I don't think he's flighty.
And not. Oh no, he is.
No, he
Believe
is.
me.
I mean, he's actually got it right. That this is so distressing.
That's why it needs to remain inside of that room. That's exactly why it needs to remain inside of that room. So does this damn tape. It needs to remain inside of that room that we lock the door on and goes into the vault. And nobody ever sees it. That's why. I don't care what size of the heart he has. There are repercussions.
Big ones. But yet,
paved with good intentions.
Everybody has experienced deja vu. I'm wondering if this deja vu...
There is an explanation for that, and it's within the present models of cognitive psychology for iconic memory.
There's always an explanation. And models of cognitive psychology are just some guy's idea of how it might work, and everybody's gone, ooh, ah.
Yeah, and what happens?
He's got a doctorate somewhere, and they just fall in line behind him. It doesn't mean it's true.
With them going, ooh, ah. If they figure out that this thing works, or could work,
well, you know as well
they're
as
going to go, ooh, ah.
You know as well as I do that the minute that the prohibitions are off,
you put a jar there and you put the orange in the jar. Good analogy. When it comes to this issue, the chimp is going to reach into the jar and grab a hold of it, and he's not going to refuse. He's not going to give it up until the jar breaks.
You know as well as I do that when the prohibitions for use of looking glass technology come off, that all of the major powers are going to be right back in business. And they're going to want every bit of information that they can glean from anywhere.
They can glean it from outside our room.
Well, they're going to be gleaning something. And the power, and whether we do it or whether John, who pretty much, I think this is one of the reasons why he allowed us to.
I kind of thought he thought that we love each other, and that would be like, you know,
Well, he knows,
nice.
He knows we love each other. But John also has had access, probably still does, to all of the recordings from the looking glass and all of the permutations and all of the evaluations. It's probably going to take another
He's got access.
10 years for it all to be sifted.
He's got access to all of the 3D probabilities, the crossovers and permutations. I don't think all of them have been deinterlaced.
I don't think they have either.
But he's got access to that data, yes. He doesn't have access to the ring positions because I made damn sure that that was going to be stolen. And when we get rid of the orb, those things are going to be heading off anyway to our good friends who, with wonderful arguments why they haven't changed time. You know, as soon as the heirlooms, but that's soon, you know, within a few years.
I know that. But I'm wondering.
But we need to hold them in place just in case we all screwed up and
Really?
we were all wrong. But I doubt it.
I don't think so because it's lining up so.
Another reason not to open up the original transform, that three-dimensional amorphous.
Oh, I know.
Figurine, if you will, to just get access to those waves without opening it up too much. It could be done without having to strange matter it to hold it open, I think.
Okay.
But we're talking about, again, the building of a time machine.
Yeah.
And that is something that is anathema. You know, yep, Papa.
I know. And yet he said.
Yeah, I know exactly what he said. I remember staring right into his eyes when he said it and wondering what the hell he was talking about. And I just smiled a lot because I thought, hey, here's the Pope, gee willikers, you know.
This is very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. It was very nice.
Here's the Pope.
It's not nice anymore. It's wonderful having met him, but it's not nice anymore. Maybe that's what Norm wanted. The man who used to ski with him.
I know, he spent a lot of time with him, and he probably found out a lot of things. That's why he was currying favor from you and me.
No, he wasn't currying at all.
Well, he was, yeah, he was desperately trying to pick your brain.
This needs to remain inside that room. It needs to remain between you and me. Fine for history's sake, but dump this damn thing into the archive. And I mean into the vault. Yeah, we need to call a meeting of the team. We certainly need to get Fran, Stephen. Brian started to cry. He became so afraid. Brian.
Jesus.
He was crying. I told him, just calm it off. Calm it off. If you found it, you found it for a reason. And he says, I was just thinking about your stupid mirrors idea. So he put a mirror-like device and he shrunk it so that it would fit.
Right.
Voila.
And voila. Kind of accessing the outside of the orange where time-space warps instead of the interior where the singularity would be.
Where the probabilities for the results.
For the results would be 3D hologram.
Yeah, where it was all weaved together on the outside. The place that would not be touched. And it was like almost impossible for them to do it. They could barely stretch things open to get the one portion of it to open up the ERB. And then that's why it became unstable as we moved toward the transition toward the end of 08.
Become more and more unstable.
That's why they couldn't keep it open. Not even with the posts that they were using. It was basically like pulling it open like
stretching taffy.
Exactly.
Like stretching taffy between poles.
Yeah, exactly. Holding it open like a large sheet, if you will. So we're going to have to call a meeting together. We're going to have to all sit around and say, okay, we swear ourselves to secrecy.
Yeah, and then when things straighten up and we're able to use these devices safely,
then we do what?
what do we do?
We talk with John maybe, or
Well, hell yeah.
we get a hold of the unit up there.
Yeah.
And if they're restarting it up and ask them certain questions about it, then when they say, well, why? We say, well, we just want to know, and then they're going to say bullshit.
They're going to say bullshit. They're going to say, what have you got?
Yeah, what do you want to know?
And why, and what have you got? Quid pro quo. We'll tell you what you want to know if you tell us what you've got.
Yeah, then the cameras get so close they almost pop out of the friggin' walls to see and hear it's click.
Click. Yeah.
Yeah. How about the roving snakes in there?
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. Look at every flinch. Start testing my eyes out. Start testing your eyes out to see whether or not there are axes flinches, to see whether you're really lying, whether I'm lying, and they're going to know that we damn well are.
That we are, and then it's going to be on.
Or at least they'll know that we're hiding something, and even to that extent, it will be on.
It'll be on because they're going to
be our guests.
Be our guests. We'd love to.
Yeah, be our guest. Be our guest.
Yeah, right. Here we've got something delicious for you.
We have a wonderful room for you down here on the third. Yes. Would you like a unit other than number 2?
They all look alike, but maybe you'd like this unit. We've got your favorite movies.
Hey, no. If I could burn 2, I would.
Yeah, that's where they.
Yes.
I know. That's where they had you locked in. Yeah, just beautiful.
Can I have breakfast?
Yeah, let's go eat. I'm hungry.
Please.
Well, I'm not hungry,
and
but I have
not talk
to
about
eat.
this in front of the public at all?
Yeah, I'm hungry, but I'm not hungry at the same time. I'm still feeling that sensation of deja vu.
The last time I ate, this was when, Steve dumped the food in, and so he was standing there while we were still talking.
Yeah.
Stephen, God love you.
What are we going to do?
I don't know that we have to. Tell him forget about it. He'll shut his mouth forever, I know that.
No, I know he will, but what are we going to do?
We secure this damn tape.
No, I mean in the future with this information.
Burn it. And we don't.
And yet
I take the file and I throw it into an incinerator.
Somebody has already done it, because look at all the deja vu incidences, and I'm not buying that,
Well, then let them do
psycho babble crap.
And let them do it. Well, it's really not, but okay. Well, I'm in the
I know you are, and I'm not, because to me it's just a bunch of people stroking their egos or something else, and telling each other how wonderful that they are, that they've come up with this.
We're not talking about ufology here. We're talking about cognitive scientists.
That's what I'm talking about. As far as I'm concerned, they're no better than ufologists. All they do is stroke each other around the table.
They're
and say, "Oh, you got a wonderful idea. Well, let's all agree with that, and then we'll put it into a book, and then everybody will go, ooh, we believe that because they said so." And then 6 years from now, they come up with something else.
No, there's still a difference. The cognitive psychology people still transfer something into the real world. Okay, there's the difference. The principle of social limits that came from mad folkloristics.
The cognitive psychology
prevents ufology from ever ensconcing into society itself, unless the lock is turned. The key is inserted and the lock is turned. Until then, their principle is sound, and it won't happen. The only thing that will ever happen from it is that you get the Little Green Men movies. And you damn well know it.
Yeah, and
that's why we were put out there, to see whether or not anybody would actually have enough guts to turn the key. And thank God, nobody hasn't.
Thankfully, yes. Because my God, we've handed them everything to use, and nobody has had the guts to come out from behind their computer screens.
And they won't.
And they're not going to.
And they won't. That's what the highest number of probabilities have indicated, even from the looking glass. So what we're going to do is we're just going to ride it out. We'll leave it up. Leave those affidavits up ad infinitum. I don't care. Okay? But we'll just ride it out. And then once it comes time for the cross, to be talked about,
Yes.
I'm just not available. And neither are you, because I can't be because of you.
Oh, no, absolutely not. After a certain
Horrible woman.
point.
Thank you.
Well, I know.
Thank
know
you, because then I
really
can go back into the research period.
are
And
very tired of trying to explain the same thing over and over and over to these people. It's like, how many times are you going to be asked what it was like to be
if you've got it.
in the clean sphere?
You're not asking me now for this tape,
No,
okay?
but people keep asking the same questions. It's like this material's been put out in written form, in video form, in everything. I mean, and now we're working, I don't know. It's just...
This cognitive dissonance has entered into the area of insanity. Full-fledged insanity. Because the cognitive dissonance is promoting the re-asking of the same question over and over again, hoping for a different result.
I know.
And there's...
What people don't understand, and
what do I have to do, I mean, to calm them down?
No, you can't.
I have to lie to them?
What they don't understand is there's a difference between... Well, okay, God love them. Some of the wonderful people out there, and there are a lot of them. They say, well, we want to keep your story.
History's gonna hear this, or hopefully better not.
They're saying we want to keep your story alive and fresh out there. And I'm going, but it's not a story. It's our lives. It's not a story.
Perhaps.
There's a difference.
Perhaps the fact that we're dealing with a real change in time, that we were dealing with a real paradox, makes a certain number of them, because of average neural networking, unable to conceive it.
Maybe.
Okay? Before we knew, before certain cultures knew that there were other societies, the old statement about individuals couldn't see the ships on the horizon because over the sea, because they couldn't see their sails, because it was impossible to exist. It's possible that we're on one of those ships. So it doesn't make us, because societies are complex, no matter which society you belong to, it makes us no better than anyone else. But possibly we're involved in a society, for lack of a better term, that is just being initially perceived by another society that is incapable of understanding that this is real. If that is the case, then they're going to look right through us and say that there is no ship on the horizon until their priests, whatever they may be, whether
it's religious or scientific.
Actual religious priests or scientific, exactly. Until their priests say it exists. And as soon as their priests say it exists, they'll see the ships on the horizon.
That could be why all these people
and by then, of course, we'll be gone,
claimed,
hopefully.
This could be why all these people who have claimed that they won't believe anything until the government puts its rubber stamp of approval on it.
Yet they say the government is the great deceiver.
At the same breath.
Now, yes. If that is not cognitive dissonance.
What is? And what is?
Yes, ma'am.
It's like, we don't believe anything the government says. The government's involved in cover-ups, but yet I'm not going to believe something unless the government puts its imprimatur, its seal of approval on it.
That's right.
It's like, excuse me, but you're, pardon? And yet I hear it. I hear it from people.
Even though you have a beyond reasonable doubt in front of you. Beyond reasonable doubt.
You have an assurance of validity.
Because to go further will directly inculcate the government. Okay? So they're a hedge off. Okay, they just, here is the government hanging. Okay?
Yeah.
And here's where we've been sat.
Yeah.
Okay? So you've got that little region there. That little region is the Sunni document not being found.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
No photos of me or video. High-res videotape from inside the clean sphere.
Right.
Popping up. Okay? But such a massive evidence, such as they've never seen before.
Does exist.
Does exist.
I mean, it's huge. It's an absolute, overwhelming, massive evidence.
But it keeps them safe until, and this is the way they set it up, and it's pretty damn good, until they key turn. If they key turn and they see the massive evidence in front of them, the ship on the horizon, the sails that the priests have not told them exist.
Yeah.
Because remember that singer's son in Los Angeles, remember what he said to me. After a massive evidence was presented to him, I was sitting around his poolside with Ron and the dogs were eating the pine cones off me. Okay. He said after this whole thing, but if I had the time travel aspect into this, and he even admitted that it answers all of the questions.
Right.
It will destroy everything he believes of what these gurus out here have taught him. And I said, right then and there, we have a cult, we have religion.
Masquerading as observation, or masquerading as a scientific evaluation.
Right. Now, if they turn this key and this happens, and the people see the ships on the horizon that they cannot see right now, if that happens, these same individuals, their necks are on the line. But they know that if the whole information comes out, and it comes out by will of the people understanding, having the concept that the ships on the horizon can exist, that the rest of the information will come out and they won't hang them. They know this. They'll know that from 47 and a few years on, they desperately did everything they could to save the world from ourselves. They'll find that out, and all of a sudden, these people that just the anarchists or the anti-government folks on the net who say, hang on, they're all going to burn. They know that they wouldn't be burning. Of course, the anti-government people would stand there in awe. Because I'm not sure whether they could still see the ships on the horizon or not, just because the other folks could, and they turned the key.
Okay.
Because groups within the human population may still not be able to see the ships on the horizon.
Okay. I mean, we still have flat Earth societies.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's in the 21st century. We still have flat Earth societies.
Is it not flat?
I mean, honestly, people, it's just scary to me. But yeah, there are
ways of projecting.
There are certain subpopulations
We'll just say,
within the general population.
We'll say that the flat earthers are so smart. They've been raised to the fourth dimension. They're looking at slices through three-dimensional objects. So even though the Earth is a sphere to us, they're so smart, they're in the fourth dimension, they're actually able to carve it up, and they're perceiving a carved two-dimensional plane. The P is under...
Wait a minute, where's the...
P is under here. Well, it's right under here right now.
Yeah.
Oh, it's back over here.
Where's the piano music with Harry Anderson? Bub and Harry Anderson.
He's beautiful.
I love watching him. I love watching him. He's so smooth.
He is.
And
I caught him though.
Oh,
that one video.
But he's so smooth and elegant with this. He's
the old shell game.
Thousands of hours on that.
The one we can clearly see him displacing it under his hand.
It's just lovely.
He needs to flatten his hand a little more because when he pulls his hand away, he's got that arc, But anyway,
it's still
he's
beautiful
very good
to watch. But
and he was working against a guy that kept drinking too, and what's better than that?
Well, exactly.
That's what casinos depend on.
They want to keep them drunk and just a little off their guard. That's why all these casinos have put these girls in skimpy costumes up on dance rails in the main blackjack pits now.
Sure.
They want people drunk and distracted.
Sure.
And then they make mistakes.
And if you get an average male at a gaming table, average male, alcoholic or not, that's a distraction.
They're going to be distracted.
Yes, ma'am.
They're going to count on that, and I don't really.
Yeah, it's a distraction. All right.
I'm kind of seeing that reflected in a lot of different things, because it's like, look over here, look over here, look over there, look over here. Just ignore this enormous body of information that's been presented already. Look over here, look over there.
Well, that's both an impetus, an optimism for me, and a pessimism. It acts as both, because the individuals who are smart enough, this is a double-edged sword here, but the individuals who are smart enough to put the girl on a stand, dancing around the gaming table, are also probably smart enough to see the ship on the horizon.
Regardless of whether they've been told one thing or another by the respective priests.
But they're also the kind not to promote the priests, or through some action of their own, promote the people to see the ships on the horizon. They'll use it for their own gain. Because remember, they are the individuals who put the woman on the stand.
They're the ones that are handing the cheeseburgers and the cold beer to people and patting them on the head and saying, look over here.
Right. That's the double-edged sword to this.
Look over here.
Is that it acts as, that's right. It acts as a use of the people. Hollywood.
Well, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it in virtually everything, even in the standard, quote unquote, standard UFO conventions. There's an entertainment factor. It's a huge entertainment factor that's going on, and very little in the way of a real discussion about issues, because people are much more interested in the green blow-up dummies and crystal bowls on a stick that they can pretend to be getting cosmic rays from, or whatever.
Look, singing bowls.
Singing bowls are
they're beautiful, they're natural, and depending upon how they're tuned, yes, definitely possible in aid and healing.
Absolutely.
Of various modalities that could be used with him.
And I'm even
walking around with bowl on stick.
Oh, that woman was amazing. Bowl on stick, holding right beside her head. I don't know what she was doing. Except trying to get a little bit of attention.
I work in the from hyperspace into electromagnetic
range. Yes.
It won't cut it.
No, it doesn't cut it. Now, I know frequencies, tonality, musicality, even color frequencies
it doesn't mean that you have to hear it.
Are extremely important in terms of people's well-being and health and all kinds of good things.
Yes. Well, when we get ISIS.
Exactly. It's going to all come together.
Mistress ISIS.
I can't wait for beta testing to start. It's going to be so exciting.
Well, it's in your hands.
I know.
And I'm working on it.
I'm working on getting everything put together.
I cannot be directly involved in it if you want something up with the machine.
No, all I want you
after
to do
it goes through its
is essentially
protective encasement, so nobody runs out of the room or whatever with it.
All I really want is...
it hasn't been scheduled yet, but it's going to be between Arizona and
I'm aware. I'm working on it right now.
You know why?
Why?
It's already been seen.
But honestly, I'm excited. But I don't want you directly involved with it. If I need a technical help, I'll shut everything down. We'll do the technical thing. Then you go back to doing what it is you're doing, and then I'll get it back.
Okay, you're gonna have to tell Master Stanley to get out of my diaries a little bit, because now he knows how to look in the page margins.
Yeah, I know he does.
So these page margins, which are normally marked up in between the standard statements, he knows how to look at them to draw the writing out.
Yeah. I've had to recode some of my stuff too. It just keeps having to be recoded.
He hasn't figured out yet that the writing in the page margins was not necessarily from that time. That's where I'm doing the decodes for you. He hasn't figured it out. I love him, but he hasn't figured it out. The dude's a side doc, and he hasn't figured it out.
I know.
Just because I happen to use the same color ink as a particular page.
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean anything.
He hasn't dated the ink, so.
Right.
But come on, guy. I'm not going to tell him though. I'm not. I'm just going to let him say, Well, he wrote it at that same time. I wonder what the writing is on the page. Well, some of it's the same thing, guy.
Well.
Welcome to the world of the J-Rod.
Yeah.
I can't tell them everything, though. You know that.
No. That's
Can you imagine? Yeah, can you imagine?
Telling everything? That would be.
We've got the interview coming up not that long from now with OM. Yeah. With OM, I think everything is going to go all right along that and the S4 project. But we still have to be careful. Imagine telling them about something that happened a couple thousand years ago.
Okay, I know the video is a little difficult to understand, but I thought if we watched it and you paid close attention between the lines, you could gather what they were talking about. And he was originally talking about the argon being put inside the device at the beginning. That's part of Project Arggo. In regards to the device itself, the looking glass device was the spinning concentric rings. They had at one point utilized these rings to access what they referred to as time, quote unquote, and had a lot of world leaders use the device who actually saw horrific probabilities or outcomes. And because of that, they closed down the Looking Glass project for a while and put prohibitions on it where they couldn't use the device. And that's what Dan Burisch was talking about. He said there are prohibitions on it. And the reason that is because of the old danger that has always been mentioned in time travel theory, which is you could create a paradox where your uncle meets your uncle or you meet yourself. What happens if that happens? If you change something or you view, what I'm trying to get at it is if you view something in the future through the rind of the sphere inside the looking glass device, and you actually see something that gives you information that you could alter your actions with currently in the time that you live in now, what would that do to your future? Would that change it? And is that necessarily a safe thing? That's what they were talking about. What do you think, Tommy?
Well, it's all so very interesting when you're talking about time travel and the timeline just in and of itself, because you're right. Any small change, if I were to go back and meet Tommy Highway at, let's say, age 25, okay, believe me, I have some things I'd like to tell him. No question about that. But if I do that, that's going to change my particular timeline and probably the timeline of everything else I touch, because I'm going to be doing something different based on information that I got from the future. And I think that that's what they're talking about as far as the dangers of these looking glass type devices, is because not only are you looking at the future, but you're also only looking at one particular possible future, because anything can happen to change the timeline. You see what I'm saying? You follow me there? Now, as far as this guy's concerned, I don't know. He seems a little disturbed to me. I mean, maybe it's just me, but he seems a little disturbed to me. But I will say that we've had other people talking about these devices that are more credible, in my opinion, such as Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar spoke of that the microgravity and time device that they had there, which is very similar to what we're talking about, maybe even the same thing, that they had at Groom Lake while he was there messing with these UFOs and all the recovered craft, things of that nature. So who knows?
Although Dan Burisch did mention that the project was at S4, which is where Bob Lazar worked.
Right.
So what I'm saying to you is maybe there was some type of contact or context between him and Lazar. I don't know. But I do know that the looking glass technology was developed at S4. The progression of the actual project is in limbo at this point because world leaders fear using it. Because if they get too much information, they could alter the timeline according to them. Okay? And if they alter the timeline, the probabilities could be horrific in nature, hard to comprehend. And if that's the case, we don't want that. Unless there are organizations that actually do want that, like the New World Order, for instance. There's a lot of probabilities, a lot of situations. According to Kerry, Cassidy, and according to Dan Burisch, they were experiencing deja vu. And according to them, deja vu is an indication that the timeline has already been altered. It's like if you walk into a house and you think you've been there and you can swear you've been there, and say you got to, I don't know, go to the bathroom or something, and you walk right to it. And it's upstairs on the 3rd floor or 4th floor down. How did you find it if you had never been there before? So deja vu could mean that you were there before, but the timeline was changed. So you didn't think that you had ever been there.
Well, we talk about the Mandela effect. That some of the folks in the chat room were talking about this. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Mandela effect, what it basically amounts to is that Nelson Mandela, some people remember his death, okay, before he was released from prison. In other words, he died in prison. And some people remember him released from prison and alive and well and doing all the things that he did for the decade or so that he lived afterwards. Okay, that's the Mandela effect. And there are people out there that will swear that they remember his funeral and the whole 9 yards. I swear I remember it in high school. I swear I remember this happening. But I know that he didn't die. I know that that didn't happen. But I'll tell you, I have a memory of it. I really do. So it's really hard to say. I mean, when you look at the way Einstein theorized it, basically what he said was you can look back into the past because the past already happened. But if you look into the future, you're not necessarily looking into the actual future because there's so many variables. The future hasn't happened yet.
They're just probabilities.
Right.
The future doesn't exist yet.
It hasn't happened yet. Correct.
Like Scratch was saying, we live in the now. That only now exists, which I do tend to agree with, except you can still look back into the past and learn from history. History is looking back into the past. Mm-hmm. That's how we do it. We don't do it with a looking glass device. Although the looking glass device has like a live holographic 3D image to where you can actually see it happening, according to Dan Burisch and others. Now, I was originally going to get into Project Pegasus this evening, but I decided to go with Looking Glass. We're going to do Project Pegasus 1 week after the UFO Man Halloween special, which Tommy is now going to tell us about.
Absolutely, folks. We have got a fantastic show planned for you. We're going to be bringing on some live psychics. They're going to be doing their thing. We're going to do some tarot card readings. We've got a great person for that. We've got some alien visitors that are going to be coming in specifically, exclusively to talk to Tim and myself. That's going to be fantastic. What else we got going on there, Tim?
We got a featured author that's going to tell us a scary story from one of the books he wrote.
That's right.
And we're going to have a classic horror movie And I'm still in the working process of getting that. We're also going to show some scary videos.
EVPS.
And we're going to have an EVP session. So if you are available, feel free to come and celebrate Halloween in a virtual manner. And here is our ad. One correction, we're going to go from 8 to 11 so that we can allow for people to get back from trick-or-treating with their kids if you're actually going to do that, or if you're going to go to a controlled social distancing Halloween event or whatever. You can then pop in and see what we got going on. We're going to have a good time. Tommy's going to wear his Halloween suit. Stand up, Tommy. Show him your jacket. Isn't that a cool jacket? He is the Pumpkin King.
I bought this thing from Spirit Halloween, and it's like it's tailor fit. I mean, it's amazing. I was telling Tim, I mean, I've had tailor fit suits that didn't fit this well. Okay, so whatever.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. OCCAM'S said, fabulous suit. I saw him say that. Okay, we have one more ad that we want to play you. I got to bring it up here. See here. This is Tommy's request. So here we go. Hopefully we got audio this time. Do we?
Yep.
Okay. Whoops. Oops. So that was our second attempt at a Halloween commercial. We want to welcome you to our virtual Halloween party. Tommy's got some things in store. I've got some things in store, and together we're gonna whip up a good time. At least we hope so. His mother is going to be one of our psychic mediums, and she's going to do fortune telling and tarot card reading. We're also going to have another person who claims to be a spirit medium, and she's going to do readings for people off the chat. So if you want to come on to our panel, you need to show your face so that you can be read, and you're more than welcome to do so. Any last words, Tommy?
Well, just like to thank everybody for coming as always. Hope we provided a good show for you. Excuse me. I think we learned some interesting stuff. As far as time travel and time viewing are concerned, I believe anything is possible, certainly. And again, I tend to, I guess, have a little bit of faith in what some of the things that this gentleman was talking about, based on what Bob Lazar was saying. And as many of you know, I'm a big Bob Lazar fan. I believe what the man says.
Same here.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think that I don't think there's any question about his credibility. So he spoke of this device. This guy spoke of this device. I mean, there's probably something to it at that point. But it's one of those things that it's so top secret that we'll never know. The government will never come clean about anything like this. So we'll just have to speculate, just like we will, unfortunately, with UFOs. I did notice how they were trashing ufology there in the video. I didn't really.
Yeah, that kind of bothered me a little bit. But,
didn't really dig that too much.
Yeah, I didn't dig that either. Yeah. But take it with a grain of salt, because we all know the truth about ufology. Anyways, there are good ufologists and there are bad ones. Right?
Right.
And we strive to be some of the good ones.
Exactly.
In regards to time travel and the Montauk chair, Philadelphia experiment, things like that nature, we are going to delve into those subjects in the next few weeks. So please come back and look to our channel to see when we bring those subjects up. We have looked at your comments in the comment section, and that's where we get our ideas. So thank you very much for coming. And as always...
Oh, there's one other thing. Folks, if you do us a big favor on the channel, if you would take our link to our live stream, that kind of thing, go ahead and share that to your social media platforms, whatever your favorite flavor is. That would really help us expand the channel, and we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Right. Yes, it would. And if you can, please subscribe to Tommy Highway TV and to UFO Man as well. Thank you very much for watching this evening. I know the video was a little difficult to watch, but it did impart some important information. So until next time,